What if I told you that the world's greatest threat isn't a war, a disease, or a natural disaster, but simply too many people? This is the question that has been stirring debates and sparking concerns for centuries. It's the question of overpopulation. The concept of overpopulation isn't new. It's been a topic of heated discussion since the 19th century. It's the unsettling idea that our planet may not have the capacity to sustain the ever-growing human population. From a humble 1 billion in the early 1800s, we've ballooned to a staggering 8 billion. That's 8 billion mouths to feed, 8 billion people needing clean water, shelter, and a healthy environment. The implications are far-reaching, affecting every aspect of our existence, from resource depletion and pollution to environmental impact, poverty, and overconsumption. It's a complex equation with numerous variables, and the solutions are just as multifaceted. So, how did we get here to a world of 8 billion people and counting? In 1804, the world was home to 1 billion people. Now we're at 8 billion. What happened? Well, the answer to that lies in the various developments that have taken place since the 19th century. The surge in global population wasn't a random occurrence. It was significantly driven by medical advancements and increased agricultural productivity. Let's take a trip back to the 19th century. The world was a different place then. Medical knowledge was limited, and so was agricultural productivity. But as the years rolled by, breakthroughs in these fields changed the game. Medical advancements meant that diseases which were once considered lethal could now be treated. This led to a decrease in mortality rates and an increase in life expectancy. People were living longer and healthier lives, and as you can imagine, this had a considerable impact on the population. Now let's talk about agricultural productivity. In the 19th century, farming was largely manual and the yields were modest. But with the advent of the Industrial Revolution, everything changed. Machines replaced manual labor, leading to a significant increase in food production. And as we all know, more food means the capacity to sustain more people. In essence, the Industrial Revolution played a pivotal role in the population surge. The increased food production that it brought about meant that the world could support a larger population. And indeed, it did. The population started to grow at an unprecedented rate. But it's also important to note that this growth wasn't evenly distributed. Some regions saw a faster population growth than others, largely due to differences in development and access to resources. But regardless of where it happened, the surge was remarkable. But the growth didn't stop there. So what's next? Projections suggest the population will peak at around 10.4 billion before stabilizing or decreasing. But what does this mean for our planet? As we look to the future, these projections of population growth paint a vivid picture. Imagine a world that's home to over 10 billion people. With this surge in numbers, there's an inherent pressure on our planet's resources, and this is where the debate around overpopulation becomes crucial. The concerns are manifold and deeply interconnected. At the forefront is resource depletion. As our population grows, so does our demand for vital resources: water, food, energy. These resources are finite, and as we use them up at an increasing rate, the question arises, can our planet keep up? Then there's pollution. More people mean more waste. Plastic in our oceans, air pollution in our cities, and an ever-increasing carbon footprint. The environmental impact is undeniable. Our planet is straining under the weight of our presence, and the effects are all too visible. Climate change is accelerating, biodiversity is plummeting, and our ecosystems are under threat. But it's not just about the numbers, it's about the distribution. The burden of overpopulation isn't evenly spread. Developing countries, with their faster population growth rates, face the brunt of these environmental challenges. They grapple with issues of poverty and limited resources, even as they contribute less to global pollution. And yet, amidst all these concerns, there's a glimmer of hope. Technological advancements offer potential solutions: renewable energy, sustainable agriculture, waste management. While they can't completely eliminate the problems, they can certainly mitigate them. However, it's important to remember that these are projections. They are not set in stone. Our future is not predestined. It's shaped by our actions, our policies, and our willingness to change. Critics argue that declining birth rates and technological advancements can sustain projected population sizes. But is this enough? Let's delve into the counter-arguments to the overpopulation debate. While the looming specter of overpopulation has been a concern since the 19th century, not everyone is convinced it's a genuine threat. Some critics dismiss overpopulation as a myth, arguing that the real issue isn't too many people, but rather how resources are managed and distributed. They believe that the environment's capacity to sustain humanity is not merely a matter of headcount, but hinges on how we live, consume, and waste. Moreover, these critics caution against discriminatory policies that may arise from overpopulation fears. They argue that focusing on population control could lead to harmful consequences, such as coercive family planning or infringing on reproductive rights. They warn that it's crucial to respect individual freedoms while tackling environmental issues. Another counter-argument revolves around the power of innovation. With technological advancements, we've been able to increase agricultural productivity, develop efficient energy sources, and even explore the possibility of colonizing other planets. Critics argue that these advancements can continue to sustain population growth. They point out that birth rates are already declining in many developed countries, which could naturally lead to population stabilization. However, it's important to note that these counter-arguments don't absolve us of responsibility. Whether or not overpopulation is a myth, there's no denying that our planet is facing serious environmental challenges, many of which are exacerbated by human activities. The critics themselves agree that the way we manage resources, consume, and live on this planet need to change. The debate goes on, but one thing remains certain. Our actions today will shape the world of tomorrow. We must continue to strive for sustainable solutions, ensuring that our planet can support not just us, but generations to come. Overpopulation, population growth, and overconsumption. How are they all connected? Let's delve into this intricate web. Imagine the Earth as a gigantic apple pie. When the global population was smaller, say around the start of the 19th century, we had a larger slice of the pie per person. As the population ballooned from 1 billion to 8 billion, the size of each slice shrank. Now, we're not just talking about physical space. This pie represents all our resources: water, food, energy, and so on. With the population surge, the rate at which we consume these resources also escalated, leading to what we call overconsumption. We're gobbling up our pie faster than it can regenerate itself. The result? Depletion of resources, increased waste, and a massive strain on our environment. This overconsumption isn't evenly distributed, though. Wealthier nations consume more resources per capita than poorer ones, yet the environmental consequences affect us all. This disparity results in an added burden on developing countries. They're grappling with the impacts of climate change, like droughts and floods, which are exacerbated by overconsumption and overpopulation. Moreover, a larger population also means more people living in poverty. It's a vicious cycle. Poverty can lead to higher birth rates, which in turn fuels overpopulation. And with more mouths to feed, overconsumption becomes almost inevitable. So you see, overpopulation, population growth, and overconsumption are tightly interwoven. They feed off each other, creating a cycle that's hard to break. And it's this cycle that's driving many of our environmental problems today. But here's the thing, we're not powerless. We can make choices that promote sustainability. We can opt for renewable energy, reduce waste, and support policies that empower developing nations. We can choose to consume responsibly, ensuring that there's enough pie for everyone, now and in the future. As the world's population continues to grow, the choices we make now will determine the future we create. So, overpopulation, a threat or a myth? This question has been part of our global conversation since the 19th century. We've seen our world's population explode from 1 billion in the early 1800s to an estimated 8 billion today, largely due to medical and agricultural advancements. Projections suggest we may peak at around 10.4 billion before we hit a plateau, or even see a decline. Yet this debate isn't just about numbers. It's about the resources we share and the environment we live in. It's about the interconnected challenges of overconsumption and population growth, and the impact they have on our planet. On the other side, critics argue that declining birth rates and technological advancements can sustain our growing population. They caution against attributing environmental issues solely to overpopulation and warn against potentially discriminatory policies. Regardless of where you stand in this debate, the question remains, how will we, as a global community, respond to the challenges and opportunities presented by our growing population?